Hi everyone, my name is Kayla and welcome back to Kay's Hidden Shelf where we talk about books. Today I'm going to be sharing with you everything I read in May and June. Between the 2 months I had read 5 books, so I figured I'd best combine them into just one reading wrap up. So, without wasting any time, let's go ahead and dive right into it. First up is Crazy Maids in a Row by Patricia Meredith. This is book 3 in the Spokane Clock Tower mysteries and marks yet another stellar installment into the series. I devoured this one. With the baker in the Medical Lake Asylum, her treatment should be well underway. Only a string of murders break out at the asylum, bringing the Carew brothers, Marion and Archie, in to investigate. Coming back to the baker, seeing the familiar cast that I've come to love was an absolute treat. The characters continue to grow alongside a romantic subplot that is carefully structured within the story. For me, the relationship developments and internal reactions we see from the characters was thoughtfully done, further solidifying them as real people to me that you could stop and have tea with. There was a great balance of wholesome moments alongside the mystery as well, which I really appreciated. You get that thrill while also getting some cozy side stories. Speaking of, the mystery itself often left me in suspense, and there were plenty of chilling moments. So far, this one felt to have the highest stakes out of the series so far, just due to the close quarters of the murders, and those who might be willing to help are classified as insane. Patricia Meredith also handles the themes of mental illness and disability with care, not only matching these situations and perspectives to the time in history, but also managing to capture authenticity to the characters' experiences. I will say the pace felt fast, as there were lots of moving parts within this story. The inclusion of historical events, people, and data also shows the author's passion for history. At the end of the book, there is also mention of the research that helped inspire aspects of the story and demonstrates the impressive attention to detail the author has. I also read this as an immersion read with the physical copy and the audiobook, and the narrator, yet again Rebecca Cook, delivered another fantastic performance, bringing the characters to life from the pages. I have to say, Rebecca's narration is really impressive. There are so many different voices that she's able to capture from the male and female characters that I would honestly think this is a full cast, or at least close to it. As mentioned with the first 2 books I had talked about in this series, I highly recommend it. It is bingeable. The characters are just endearing, and there's something about it that really just piques my heart, along with giving me that thrill and suspense that I always love finding in stories as well. Patricia Meredith delivers meaningful characters within mysteries that will engage readers and keep them on the edge of their seat, so I highly recommend checking out her books. And of course, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I had a fantastic time with this. After that, I continued along Patricia Meredith's books as she released a new one, which is A Deed of Dreadful Note. This is book 1 in the Anna Catherine Green mysteries, and is an absolute passion project. I'm actually going to go ahead and read the back of the book to you so you have an idea of not only what the story is, but where the inspiration for the main character and the entire book comes from. 15 years before Sir Arthur Conan Doyle published A Study in Scarlet, Anna Catherine Green began writing the Leavenworth case, inspiring the creation of detectives like Sherlock, Pirroir, and Whimsy, as well as almost every device and convention we now recognize as a standard in detective mystery fiction. When her father's client is found murdered, Anna takes up the call to prove innocent the young girl accused of the murder. The investigation inspires many of the events, characters, and descriptions that would later be published in her debut novel. A love letter to mystery and writing itself, A Deed of Dreadful Note is an homage and reintroduction to an author who was the Agatha Christie of her time, but a forgotten female today. This book is a fictionalized account of how Anna Catherine Green's first novel may have come to be. Now, this is a story that is built from passion with incredible delivery, as it follows the young Anna Catherine Green, who is thrust into the midst of a murder investigation. She also begins writing her own novel throughout the story. At this point, it's safe to say Patricia Meredith has quickly become one of my favorite authors. With each novel I've read by her, I find myself in binge-worthy reads evoking a variety of experiences from shock, heartbreak, and even delight, all while trying to solve the mystery alongside the characters. Her ability to craft lovable characters, intriguing mysteries, and cover topics of mental health and disability with sensitivity while remaining historically accurate is impressive. A Deed of Dreadful Note captured much of this. I quickly found myself caring for the characters and rooting for Anna as she tried to solve the murder while finding herself as an author. Patricia Meredith also leaves multiple trails of breadcrumbs throughout the story for readers to follow, all while sowing doubt. This allowed me a chance to solve the mystery alongside Anna and making me that much more invested. Part of what made this so compelling is seeing the story through Anna's perspective. She is an observant and strong character, continually facing every obstacle with determination. Even while pushing the social expectations of the period, she remains believable. In fact, the same can be said for the side cast, as they receive similar care in their development, roles, and relationships, making it easy to connect with the characters while still questioning everything to solve the murder. Now, the banter between characters was spot on and had me keeping score while naturally building their relationships. As this is a fictionalized tale of the real author, Anna Catherine Green, and the journey that might have been while writing her first novel, the attention to detail in the historical aspects, not just the time period, but also the accounts from the author's life, are impressive. It truly is a project of passion with how much thought has gone into creating the story and Anna's character based off the real author. In terms of pacing, it did shift between medium to a whirlwind of an ending, including plenty of suspicion, suspense, emotional moments, and twists along the way. Now, I did an immersion read of this as well between the ebook and the audiobook. I didn't have a physical copy at the time. I bought that later for my bookshelf. And I was pleasantly surprised to find that Patricia Meredith narrated the audiobook herself, and she did a fantastic job at bringing the story to life. Overall, I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is yet another book I can't recommend enough. If you enjoy historical fiction, historical thrillers, murder mysteries, and endearing casts of characters, definitely check out Patricia Meredith's books. Next, I read The Revenge of Thousands by Michael Roberti. This is a prequel novella to the Crown and Tide series. This was filled with battles, plotting, and characters you'll come to love. Because it's a prequel novella, it gave me a chance to dip my toes in with Michael Roberti's writing and see if it was the kind of story I might be interested in. I'm happy to report that I am really excited to continue the series, as it opens with a bloody and brutal opening. Now, this novella is a multi-POV story that follows a hardy people known as the Reachmen, while a carefully plotted war sets into motion. I was also impressed with how much is packed into these 134 pages, with great twists, reveals, and complex character relationships, alongside all of the plotting and the bloody battles that take place. The pacing was just well done. Because this is a prequel novella as well, the author gives just enough information for readers to follow along, and again, like I said, it piqued my curiosity. I want to see what happens next, because it felt like there were so many working mechanisms in the background behind all of this plotting, so much at stake, that I just am invested in what happens next. Ultimately, this was a great introduction to the series and Michael Roberti's writing. I'm quite eager to see what happens next, and I'll be continuing with book 1 in the Tide and Crown series, which is Traitors Among Us, I believe. the cover will be here. All in all, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. After that, I read Seeds of War by João F. Silva. I've already done a full spoiler-free review video. If you'd like to hear all my thoughts, I'll leave a link up in the cards where you can find that. Now, I did receive this copy in exchange for an honest review from the author, but this was one that I was very excited to get to. This is a daring epic filled with gritty battles, devastating smoke magic, and war. This is book 1 in the Smokesmith series and is a debut from this author. The story follows 3 characters, their struggles for survival, and the whispers of war that threaten to destroy the past 10 years of peace. Even with the Crimson Wars ending 10 years ago, the lives of those in the known world remain a struggle, with starvation, poverty, and slavery is a common sight while kingdoms seek new means of power. Now, this is a multi-POV story that follows 3 main characters, the first being Gimlor, a mother and veteran who strives to protect those she loves and a village of her own making. Second is Rednow, a feared mercenary leader who just longs to retire. However, as the voice of his dead sister plagues him, one last job calls. Finally, Obreses, a thief and con man pretending to be God while hiding a vulnerable secret. Firstly, the characters drew me in right from the start. Their introductions felt effortless, making it easy to connect with them and the sidecast. While we meet the characters in a way that feels like reacquainting with old friends, there is also mystery woven throughout this story. The 3 main characters start out on different paths, and events bring their arcs together as the plot comes to a head. It was also fascinating to read because each character takes a different means of survival. Their choices, the lengths that they go to in order to survive, are different, vastly different, and I love how the author took time to explore that from 3 different circumstances and perspectives. I want to talk about the world building and the magic system for a moment because they felt unique and well built. The world itself is large, filled with different terrains, cultures, creatures, you name it. It's so diverse, and we get to see quite a bit of it in this book, though I imagine we have quite a lot more to explore later on in the series. The world also had a gritty feel to it due to the circumstances of poverty and everyone just struggling to survive. There's also political scheming, military tactics, and even elements of flintlock, and all of it had a little hint of grimdark to it, which was just a fantastic combination. Now for the magic system. As hinted to in the title of the book series, The Smokesmiths, the magic is smoke-based, and those who are able to use the magic are called smokesmiths. Now, the author doesn't hold back with how dangerous this magic system can be, as the magic is devastating, but it's not without its consequences either to the smokesmiths themselves. All that being said, I did find some areas that felt repetitive within the storytelling, though it didn't take away from my overall enjoyment of the book. As mentioned, this is a debut, and for a debut, this is quite impressive. The world, the magic, and characters remain well crafted, and the author's writing will only grow from here. The way this also ended, I wanted book 2 in my hands right away. I would highly recommend checking this out if you enjoy epic fantasy and all of the elements mentioned. There's a lot to love in this, and overall I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Finally, I read Sordaneon by L.L. Stevens. Now, I had won this copy in a giveaway that the author had been hosting quite a while ago, and I read it over the course of several months. This took me a while to read, but for good reason. There is so much detail, so much care put into this that I wanted to absorb everything I could. This is an incredible start to the Trampery Revelation series. Now, this is a self-published book, and I want to highlight something here because it's been nagging at me. This is definitely the book I can ramble on, so I apologize if I do that a bit here. However, whenever I hear comments of someone saying, self-published books don't have the same quality as traditionally published books, I want to hand you this one. This book is so detailed. The polishing on it is incredible. The thought and care put into the characters' arcs, developments, and all of the political scheming and machinations that go on. It was so well done. It's an impressive character-driven story with depth at every angle, attention to detail, and emotional moments that had me in tears. The story here follows multiple points of views and centers around two families as well as their kingdoms. The first is Dorillion, a young boy who is bound to a godlike being known as the Rill and raised throughout years of generational politicking. Next is Mark Frederick, a ruler who is attempting to win over Dorillion, only to find that Dorillion hates him and his family. After that is Stefan, who is Mark Frederick's grandson, and he only wants to make things better for his people. I will say that the opening scene is heart-wrenching and sets the stage for the kind of story that readers will be in for. As we start the story, Dorillion is a young boy, but by the time we finish this book, he is grown into a young man. This mixed with the first-person perspectives and how L.L. Stevens weaves the story to sow doubt and mystery throughout, it made for a compelling read. I was never sure what was going to happen next, not just due to the events, but the characters' reactions. There were several complexities that impacted their choices, decisions, and circumstances that just made it hard to predict what might happen next. The characters felt fully realized and nuanced, their arcs were thoughtfully done, and their developments felt earned. This isn't just a look at good versus evil, it's a look at the morally gray characters caught in between generational struggles for power. Now, this is a slow burn read, however, it is packed with intrigue and hard-hitting emotional moments. Now, while this did take me about 100 pages to get comfortable with, that was mainly due to being thrown right into the world, the characters, and the story. It took some time to learn about all of those details, from the magic, the characters, their kingdoms, the history behind them, and the cultures. Once I settled in, though, this quickly became a favorite. I would highly recommend this for fans of high fantasy who love political scheming and tensions, alongside a character-driven narrative that allows the reader to explore the mentality of characters and their choices. This is definitely a hidden gem in self-published fantasy, and I highly recommend it. And that is everything I read back in May and June. Slowly but surely, I am catching up on these wrap-ups. I'd love to hear, what did you read back in May or June? Do you have any new or recent favorites that have creeped up on you? Leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. As always, thank you so much for watching, and take care of yourselves.